I'm recording, and I admit a few more people. Okay. Today I have much less planned lecture. I have to finish with the Nikud. I didn't do too good job. In the discussing the Nikud, so I have to do it now. And I was asked to deal with the old alphabet, which I'll try to do. I love your picture, Yitzhak.
Oh,
There's no kippah.
it's the whole thing is a kippah.
Oh,
Okay.
he has the mask for the COVID.
Oh, that's fine. I just say that I love the picture. This was no criticism. Let me move something out of the way. One person asked me about the behavior of certain letter in the Hebrew alphabet vis-a-vis Arabic. Now, most of you don't know Arabic, so...
The ayin?
No, not ayin. Actually, the dal, or daled without the gesh.
Nobody else shows pictures.
So Arabic has... I refreshed my memory vis-a-vis Arabic, and Hebrew legitimately have 3 sounds that Arabic doesn't, 3 or 4, and Arabic legitimately have 3 sounds that Hebrew doesn't have, lost or didn't have, including the Ain, which is the Ain, the second Ain. Altogether, if we think that both languages started from, let's say, what the scientists would call Proto-Semitic languages, then we could trace down about 32 sounds that language may have had. But the parallels between Hebrew and Arabic are big. Most of the letters are. There are some sounds that each language legitimately does have or does not have versus the second one, because they are not the same language. Yitzhak, if you remind me, I'll send you the chart that I made about.
You did send me the chart.
Arabic? Oh yeah, I did send you. Yeah, okay, fine. Okay, so Arabic is out of the way. And let's go to the Nikud. I'm going to share again this strange picture. 1 second. Share. And where is it? Yeah, this one, share. Okay. Now, this is important because Hebrew has the alphabet, which are consonants, but what about syllables? For example, the word shavar, or shovar, which is to broke, has 2 syllables. So in order to create syllables, Hebrew has the tnuot, which are expressed by way of the Nikud, what I called last time vocalization marks. Let me get rid of that. Yeah. Interestingly, the old Hebrew alphabet, which we'll discuss in a few minutes, had only the consonant part. Again, I'm not going to get into the question, the spiritual question, whether the Torah was given in our current writing system or in the old alphabet. This is more of a spiritual question than of a scientific question. And I am not expert in spiritual stuff. That's a rabbi question. The Nikud, there was one more system of Nikud and Te'amim that was developed throughout the first millennia of the current counting, whatever it is. But it was pushed away by the more advanced and more precise system that was developed in Tiberias and get to its zenith in the 9th and 10th century. So let's look at the note. This is important because of the way the grammar is looking at syllables. We have the tnuot gdolot, the long or large vowels, which are komats, which Ashkenazim say o.
That's where, let me see.
And the Sfardim say a. The tzeire, which is a long a, sefer, for example. Cholam, both of them, whether there is a vav or no vav after it, is considered a tnuah gdola, which is o, or oi, in some Ashkenazi dialects, and the chirik, which is e sound, and the shuruk, which is u sound. I don't know about any difference between the chirik malay, which is the tnuah gdola, and the chirik chaser. I know that there are some Ashkenazi dialects that insist that shuruk is something like e, rather than u. Again, dialects are dialects, and we can do nothing about it. The tnuot ktanot, the small or short vowels, are again the patach, the a, zol, which is e, the chamatz katan, which everybody agrees o, except of the current Misrad HaChinuch in Israel that make it a as well, to my chagrin. The chirik chaser, which is e, and the kubutz, which is u. Is there anybody who doesn't know how they look, or if the picture is too small, I'll make it larger? Any question? Okay. The reason it is important to understand not to understand, but to know about the two families of vowels is because of the syllables. There are some basic syllable rules which goes with the type of the tnuah. In a minute, I'll discuss it. Let me bring a part of my lecture that I didn't get too much to. I think this is it. Let me bring it to the share. Yeah. Okay. You're not on mute, so I hear your whispering, whoever it was. So you should mute yourself. Syllables. So the Hebrew vocalizations known as Tnuot are divided into two categories. I say that, short and small, versus long and or large. There are probably historical reasons for those designations, but for our purpose, those designations are important for the four basic rules of Hebrew syllables. Now I want you to understand, whoever go with me to study grammar will see how important are these rules. So remember, the alphabet is consonant. When we apply a vowel or tnua to the consonant, we could get a syllable. There are two types of syllables. This is correct for English as well. There are syllables that end with a vowel, like tu, the word tu in English. So in Hebrew, shovar, the first syllable is ending with a tnua, so. Then there are syllables that end with a consonant. The English word or end with a consonant. And in Hebrew, shovar, var, is ending with a consonant. Any question about that? I really need you to ask questions to make sure that I didn't miss anything. Okay, looks like, okay. Now,
I thought all letters were consonants.
say it again.
Didn't you tell us that all letters are consonants?
All letters are consonants. That was already established last week.
So you're not making, so how is it ending with a vowel in Hebrew?
Shvar, var.
It's a vav.
Or.
Or is ayin vav resh?
No, I didn't say or. I say o, or in English tu. The word o, aleph or bet, o. No, there is no consonant in the end of the vowel, or of the syllable. I'm sorry, there is none.
What is it?
Vav is not, in this case, vav is a silent one. This is one of the few cases where vav is silent. So.
Zev?
Yes, I'm listening.
Confused.
So if a syllable ends in a vowel,
Yeah.
right? Like with a chirik.
Yeah.
And it's followed by an aleph. Do you pronounce it any differently?
No.
Like in motzi.
In this case.
Do you pronounce it longer? Do you extend it?
No.
How do you account for the aleph?
No, you don't.
Okay.
You don't. I know there is one place where I actually do that, but this is one of the idiosyncrasies which I am not discussing tonight.
Okay.
And this
You don't have to answer it tonight. It's just a question.
Yeah, I'll tell you where is the idiosyncrasies. When we say in the Slichot, Chotanu, so there is a minhag to make the ta longer. There is no basis to that in the Dikduk. This is a minhag, this is a tradition, which is kept in many places, basically in Yerushalayim, and people who follow that. But that's as no basis.
It's only in that place in Slichot.
Yeah,
it's not in normal speech in Iraq.
Normally you don't say the word chata'ati anywhere. It's not a very common word. But
Don't admit it.
the word for she, for female, she is he. And he is Aleph Yud, He Yud Aleph, and you don't make it
There you
he.
go.
It's this, you don't hear the Aleph. But in this is the case, the Aleph is actually silent. In most cases, Aleph is not silent, or in most primary cases. Now, so again, Hebrew has idiosyncrasies, and that's why I was careful not to say that it is the most precise system in the world, on the planet. I say one of the most. Okay. Now, if we have a word of more than one syllable, we put the accent somewhere. Most of the time in Hebrew, it is on the last syllable. Shavar. Many times it's in the first syllable, like melech, geshem, okay? So one of the syllables is accented, the rest of them are not. So the rules goes like this, and I want you, again, this is in the material that I sent, I believe, to all of you. Non-accented closed syllable, which means end with a consonant, would have a short or small tnu'ah. Shovar, the var, okay, shovar is not a good idea because it is the accented, so let's leave it alone, but melech, the lamed chaf, avara syllable, has tnu'ah ktana, segol. And this rule may have exceptions, but they are far and in between.
I am so confused.
But
I had the understanding that there's a class of nouns that have two short vowels, segolit nouns, and those
yes,
accent at the beginning, like melech.
Melech, yeah. So, but I spoke about the lech, which is not accented.
It's segolit.
I will talk. I can talk about many of them. Shibolet again. The lamed taf in the end is with segol. Now, again, non-accented open syllables would usually, in most cases, have long or large tnuah. For example, the same word, shavar. The shin has kamatz. Shavar. Accented syllable could have long tnuah. It's optional. Most of the time they will adhere with the same rule, but they could have long tnuah. And accented syllables could have short tnuah in an open syllable.
Zev, could you give more examples of open and closed syllables?
Sefer. Samech with tzeireh. Pei with segol. The non-accented one in this case is the fair, have segol, as it would be in the first rule. The second one, the open one, in this case go with the same rule, it has tzeireh. However, because it is accented, if we have the word melech, the mem, me, have segol, which adhere with here.
But there are no vowels.
No, I use the word vowels colloquially to denote nikud.
I understand, but everything has nikudim. That's ridiculous.
The word safe, the syllable safe.
Why is that more ridiculous than having vowels in English?
The vowels are the nikudim. That's what you told us. And
What?
you said every letter is a consonant. So nothing ends in a vowel because they don't exist unless it has a consonant connected to it.
Tnu'a. I'll use the word tnu'a instead of the word vowel, and I have no problem. Look at this word. I'm going to show you another, share another thing. I'll share this. Share. Here, do you see the word tnu'a? The last consonant, the last syllable is open and with a tnu'a. Tnu'a. A hey in this case is not read. This is again a secondary use of hey to help us to understand that this is a open syllable.
Open. This is
Tnu. Here there are two open
sound.
syllables here. Tnu ends with a vowel or with a tnu'a, and a ends with a vowel.
So whatever is silent is an open sound.
Yeah, because it's silent. Now, again, these four rules that I taught are very important if you continue to learn grammar with me. Otherwise, it's nice to know, but it's less important. Now let's go to the Shvaim, these guys. These guys are very interesting because you don't have them in English. In English, if there is no vowel, there is no vowel. In Hebrew, if there is no vowel, you have to know that. So when you use the nikud, you add a shva. At least in the middle of the word. In the end of the word, we don't need it because it's implied. Here we have something that, again, English doesn't have. If the shva is in the end of the syllable, then it's considered shva nach. If it is in the beginning of the syllable, for example here, tnu'a, you see, it's in the beginning of the syllable, it is considered shva na.
It's pronounced.
Yes, okay, yeah.
Again, the differences will be understood if you continue to learn the grammar. By now, it's only definitions. I'm not going to the rules of the dagesh. It's the dagesh. The dagesh, what it does, it either change the sound of 6 of the letters, the bet gimel dalet kaf pei taf, or in the other letters, it denote that we duplicate the letter. I'll show you an example. I'll demonstrate it. Here, let me share it. Yeah. No, not this. Sorry. Here, this. Sure. If we go to this pasuk, uvayom, listen how to express the dagesh. Uvayom hashevi'i shovas vayinafash. You hear how I say the letter twice, basically. I'll demonstrate it again. Uvayom hashevi'i shovas vayinafash. Again, in colloquial speaking and in modern Israeli Hebrew, you will not hear these differences so much, but people who learn would tell you that yes, it exists.
Okay, so if the dot is inside, it's pronounced as the same letter twice. That's what you're saying. Okay.
Vayinafash. You hear my nun? Vayinafash.
This is basically closing the first syllable and opening the second syllable.
I can do vayinafash. I say the U twice as well. Or elongate it. Okay. This is the basic of the shvaim, of the dgeshim.
Okay, if they have no nekudot or tenuah, whatever now you normally read it without these things, would they include the dot in the middle, or they don't do that either?
No, they don't do it because it depends who. You
How do you
will have to
know that
learn
it's
many
there?
years to do that. I know it just by looking at it. I know it's vayinafash.
Of course, we all know that.
No, I didn't say everybody. I know it. You have to understand. In a minute, we'll talk about the old alphabet. The old alphabet didn't even have the vowel helpers. It didn't have hey, aleph in the end, vav in the middle. We know that because we have inscriptions that just don't have it. And people knew how to read it. Surprise, surprise, they knew their language in those days, 3,000 years ago. Okay, okay, so, there is one more type of dagesh, which I didn't have demonstration, which is in the hey, in the end of the word, if we want to hear the hey. It could be in aleph as well, but that's very rare. So we'll use only the hey. When we sing Eshet Chayil, we are talking about a female. So the possessive of female is denoted by the gesh in the hey in the end of the word. For example, lachma. You hear the hey. Okay. So since I promised to do the old alphabet and I don't have too much time, let me go over it. I know there are people who know it and there are people who don't. I believe this is it. Yeah. So sometime around 4,000 years ago, somebody put this alphabet together. And we find inscriptions, archaeologically, we find inscriptions about the 10th century or the end of 10th or beginning of 10th century BC in Hebrew. And few decades back, later, in the end of that century, we find it in Aramaic as well. It was used all over the Levant. From archaeological evidence, we think that it was changed into the one that we are using today. Again, I am not going to the spiritual question, which one was first, because it's a meaningless question for me. So I want you to look at it. I send it to you. By the way, Itzhak, you were correct about the font, and I send you a new version. I hope you got it. A version that would go with the.
Yeah, I did. Thank you.
You're welcome. So if you look at these letters, there are two alphabets that directly where came from them, the new one. And doesn't that remind you of A? Doesn't that remind you of the Greek gamma, Greek delta, epsilon, which became E because they didn't know what to do with A, Z, H,
But
Kappa.
weren't they like hieroglyphics or something? Weren't they like Delit was door or something?
Yeah, that's what we believe it was. By the way, I'm going to lose you in a very few minutes. So if I lose you, I lose you. But I want you to see this. If you corrupt it a little bit, it will look like K. This will look like L, M, N. This is again the O, because they didn't know what to do with the Ein. This is Q. At least when davening, I say off differently than kaf. This became the Rho, the Greek Rho, which became R, and this became the T. So if I have enough time, I'll show you again.
Obviously came after this.
What are my examples? Share. So this would say, Uvayom HaShevi'i Shavat Vayin Nafash. And I did add the Yud in the end, and I did add the Yud in the end and the Yud in the middle, even though in old inscriptions you may not find them.
How did you write that? It was able to print it from?
I wrote it with my regular word using Hebrew and Hebrew font.
So there is a font for it.
There is a font for it, okay.
Yeah, I did send it to you guys.
Yeah, there's a limit to what we're installing, but
That's fine. I didn't tell you to install it, but I send it to you.
yeah.
Is Arabic derived closer to that?
Say it again.
Are the Arabic letters closer to Hebrew, or is that a stupid question? I mean,
No, they are not. They look differently. Let me see if I can bring it up.
did they derive it from the old Hebrew is what I'm trying to say.
Probably, but I am less knowledgeable about the development of Arabic. Let me try to share it. Yeah. So it begins here. This is Aleph. Again, they relate to their alphabet as consonant only. They have the same approach that we have. That Bet, Taf, Thaf, Alif, Bata, Tha, Jim, Ha, Ha, Dal, Zal, Reish, Zain. The order is different. Sin, Samech, that's the same one. Shin, Tzadi. We don't have that in Hebrew. This is Tet. We don't have that.
We have ayin.
Maybe it's Ain, we don't have it.
Oh, ayin.
The Rein, we don't, the Koin, we don't have. Fei, Kuf, Kaf, Lamed, Mem. It looks different. And when you write, they connect the letters worse than English does. They don't have vet, they don't have gimel, and they don't have pay.
They have bet. I thought I saw bet.
Vet.
Oh, vet.
I was very accurate. Vet, gimel, and pay, they don't have. At least not in the original alphabet. Since the alphabet is used in Urdu, they added several more letters because Urdu is not a Semitic language. And they needed that. So this is the basic Arabic alphabet,
Okay.
as opposing to the more extended. Arabic in the Unicode standard take the largest slot after the Chinese, Japanese, and Korean.
The largest what?
The largest number of characters.
The largest amount of, because they don't take prisoners. If they believe that a letter is a letter, even if we would insist that it's two letters are the same, they say, no, they're not. And since they make their own standard, they win. I wish the Israelis would be half of that insisting in the Unicode standard. Unicode standard is in Hebrew, for Hebrew, is a failure, in my opinion, a huge failure. But who am I? Nobody listened to me. I think this is it. Any more questions in the few minutes that we have?
I think it's,
Just
I'll
a
talk to you
thing.
privately about this stuff. But,
Okay, so I think this will be it.
all right. Toda rabah.
Tada.
Have a good night, everybody.
Leila Tov.
Laila Tov.
Night.
You wanted to say something, Yitzhak?
No, just good night.
Okay, good night. Okay, bye.